when I stepped off the bus. The wind carried that familiar scent of soil and smoke, the kind that always reminded me of my grandfather's land. My land, or at least, that's what my parents always said it would be. Home, I whispered, dragging my old suitcase down the dirt path. The small house stood at the end, its white paint fading into the color of dust. The same lemon tree leaned toward the porch, heavy with fruit. For a second I smiled. The front door creaked open. Elias. My mother's voice called out, warm and surprised. "You didn't tell us you were coming." "I wanted to surprise you," I said, stepping inside. "College ended early this semester." My father looked up from the table, his face unreadable. "You should have called first," he muttered. "We could have prepared something." Mom smacked his arm. "Don't be rude. Come in, son." "You must be starving." I sat down, glancing around the room. Everything looked the same, but something felt off. The air was heavier, the laughter forced. "Is the land still the same?" I asked casually, pouring myself water. I was thinking of planting again during the break. They froze. My mother's smile wavered, and my father's hand stopped midair. "What?" I asked, half laughing. "Did I say something wrong?" Mom cleared her throat. "The land's fine. Don't worry about it right now." My father stood up abruptly. "It's getting dark. I'll check on the goats." He left before I could say anything else. I looked at Mom. "Why does he act like that every time I mention Grandpa's land?" She forced a smile. "He's just tired. Things haven't been easy lately." "Easy." I frowned. "Mom, what's going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about," she said quickly. "Eat your soup before it gets cold." The soup tasted the same, but it didn't feel comforting anymore. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the clatter of her spoon. That night, I lay in my old room staring at the ceiling. The hum of crickets filled the air. I could still hear my grandfather's voice in my head. "This land will always be yours, boy. Take care of it like it's part of you." He was the only person who ever believed I'd make something of myself. When he died, he left that small piece of earth to me, 3 acres of memories, sweat, and dreams. The next morning, I went outside. The soil felt colder under my shoes. I ran my hand over the wooden fence, the one I helped build years ago. The paint was peeling. Dad walked by, pretending not to notice me. "Morning," I said. He nodded, but kept walking. "Dad." I called after him. "I want to see the land later. Maybe start clearing weeds. You okay with that?" He turned slowly. "We'll talk later," he said flatly, then disappeared behind the barn. Mom avoided my eyes during breakfast. "Your father's under pressure," she murmured. "He's been worried." "About what?" She hesitated. "Bills, work. Just let him breathe." That evening I went out to the porch. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting the sky orange. From there, I could see the outline of the land, my land. Or at least it used to feel like mine. Their voices came from inside the kitchen. Low but sharp. "We can't keep this from him forever," my mother whispered. "Do you want to destroy him?" My father hissed back. "He'll hate us. Deserves to know. He'll find out soon enough. We did what we had to." My hands tightened around the railing. "Keep what from me?" I took a step closer to the door. "He'll forgive us," Mom said softly. "He's our son." "He won't," Dad replied. "Not when he learns we." The floor creaked under my foot, and the voices stopped. I froze. "Elias," my mother called. I pushed the door open slowly. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "I was just getting some water." She smiled weakly. "You should sleep, sweetheart." I nodded and walked back to my room, heart pounding. Lying on my bed, I stared into the dark. My parents' words echoed in my head. We did what we had to. Something was wrong, and I knew deep down, whatever it was, it had to do with my land. When I turned onto the dirt road, I noticed 2 white trucks parked by the fence. Men in hard hats stood on my land, holding clipboards and pointing at the trees I'd planted years ago. "Hey," I called, stepping out of my car. "What are you doing there?" A man turned, squinting at me. "You must be Elias, the owner's son." "Yeah? What's going on?" He glanced at his partner before saying, "We're surveying the property." The company's preparing to clear this area next month. My stomach tightened. Clear it? Why? He frowned. For construction. It's been sold, son. We just follow orders. My voice cracked. Sold? By who? Your parents, he said simply, then turned back to his clipboard. I froze. The world went silent. The wind, the birds gone. Just that one word echoing in my head. Sold. I rushed toward the house, boots hitting the ground like thunder. My parents were sitting at the table, mid-conversation. When I burst through the door, "Tell me it's not true," I said, breathing hard. "Tell me you didn't sell the land." My father's face went pale. My mother's hands trembled around her teacup. "Elias," she began. "Don't," I snapped. "Just answer me." My father stood up slowly. "We had no choice." "No choice?" My voice cracked. "That land was Grandpa's gift to me? You promised." He slammed his hand on the table. "We were drowning in debt. What did you expect us to do? Let the bank take everything?" I stared at him, stunned. "So you took the one thing that was mine and sold it behind my back?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't want to hurt you. We just needed help. And you were away. You could have called me," I interrupted. "You could have told me?" She whispered, "We thought you'd understand." Understand? I laughed bitterly. "You sold my future and called it survival." My father's jaw tightened. "Don't talk to us like that. You think you're the only one who sacrificed? You've never paid a single bill in this house." "That's because I trusted you," I shouted. "I trusted you to protect what Grandpa left us. What he left me." Mom reached for my hand. "Please, don't say things you'll regret." I pulled away. "I already regret coming home." She started to cry. "Elias, your father, he didn't mean." "I meant every word," Dad said coldly. "You've grown arrogant. You think that land made you special? It was just dirt." Something inside me broke. "It wasn't just dirt," I whispered. "It was the only thing that ever felt like home." The room fell silent. I could hear the clock ticking. My mother's sobs filled the space between us. I turned toward the door. "I can't stay here." "Where are you going?" She called after me. "Anywhere but here." I grabbed my keys and walked out before they could stop me. Outside, the sun was setting behind the trees. The workers were gone now, leaving deep footprints in the soil. I walked onto the land, kneeling beside the small patch where my grandfather and I once planted olive trees. Most were gone, cut down, dry stumps left behind. "I told you I'd protect it," I whispered to the wind. "I'm sorry I failed." I stayed there until darkness swallowed the fields. Then I drove aimlessly until I found myself parked by the roadside, near the old sign that read Miller's Farm, established 1968. I turned off the engine and leaned back, staring at the stars. My hands were shaking. I remembered Grandpa's voice, calm and strong. "Land remembers who loves it." "Then it must hate me now," I murmured. The phone buzzed beside me, Mom's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring until it stopped. Then another call came. Dad this time. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. I couldn't face them. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Hours passed. The night grew colder. I curled up in the driver's seat, jacket pulled tight, staring out at the empty fields. The moonlight spilled over the soil, my soil, now owned by strangers. "I'll get it back," I whispered to myself. "No matter how long it takes." The promise felt heavy on my tongue, but it burned like fire inside my chest. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like their son. I felt like someone they'd buried alive. The days blurred together after that night. I stopped answering their calls. Each ring felt like a wound reopening. When my sister Nora finally showed up, I wasn't surprised. She always came when things fell apart. She stood at my door, hair tied back, eyes full of worry. "You've been ignoring everyone," she said. "I've been busy," I muttered, stepping aside to let her in. "Busy hating them?" she asked quietly. I looked away. "They sold the land, Nora. What do you want me to feel?" She sighed. "I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry. They didn't just sell dirt," I cut in. "They sold the only thing that ever meant something." I know, she said softly, but they were desperate. I laughed bitterly. So desperation makes betrayal okay now? No, but they thought they were doing the right thing. Dad's been. Don't defend him. I'm not, she said quickly. I'm trying to make you see both sides. There's only one side when you're the one betrayed. Hers slumped. They're still our parents. Stopped being mine the day they signed those papers. She looked around my small apartment, the boxes, the unmade bed, the empty takeout bags. You've been living like this for weeks? I didn't realize grief had a cleaning schedule. Her eyes softened. You're hurting. No kidding. I crossed my arms. Why are you really here, Nora? She hesitated. Mom wanted me to invite you for dinner. Stared at her, speechless. Dinner. She said she made your favorite. She wants to talk. Talk about what? How easy it was to trade my life for their comfort. She regrets it, Nora said. So does Dad. He just can't say it out loud. I shook my head. You don't sell your son's inheritance and expect dinner to fix it. She's still your mother. I'm still the fool who believed her, I muttered. Nora's voice cracked. You can hate them all you want, but don't let it turn you into someone you're not. Maybe that's exactly what I need to become, I said. Someone who doesn't get hurt. We stood in silence for a moment. The ticking clock sounded louder than her breathing. I miss you, she whispered. I wanted to say I missed her too. Instead, I said you should go. She nodded, eyes shining. You'll regret shutting them out, maybe, I said, opening the door. But at least it'll be my choice this time. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker. Every thought circled back to the same point. The land, my grandfather, and what they'd taken. The next morning, I drove out there. I told myself I'd just look, nothing more. But when I reached the hilltop and saw the bulldozers, I couldn't breathe. The field was gone, flattened, stripped, dead. The old olive tree stumps were buried under fresh dirt. A man in a hard hat waved at me. Stay back, sir. Construction zone. I didn't move. My feet felt nailed to the ground. He frowned. Are you okay? I forced a smile. Just saying goodbye. Gave me a puzzled look and walked away. I stood there for a long time, the wind cold against my face. I could almost hear Grandpa's laughter echoing through the fields. I'm sorry, I whispered. I let them destroy everything you built. But beneath the grief, something darker stirred, something fierce and alive. They took from me once. That wouldn't happen again. I got back in the car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. If they could sell my land without asking, I'd learn how to buy back the whole world, starting with theirs. The city smelled like exhaust and rain, sharp, dirty, alive. I stepped off the bus with one suitcase and $40 in my pocket. That was all I had left. I found a cheap room above a bakery. The walls were thin, the ceiling leaked, but it was mine. The first job I got was unloading boxes in a warehouse. 12 hours a day, no overtime pay. The foreman yelled more than he breathed. You knew? A voice asked during break. I turned to see a guy around my age holding a half-crushed sandwich. Yeah, I said. Elias. He grinned. That's my name too. Guess we'll have to fight for it. I laughed for the first time in weeks. I could use a fight. We sat on the curb, eating in silence. The city roared around us, horns shouting, the endless hum of people trying to survive. You from around here? He asked. No, small town. Left because it stopped feeling like home. He nodded slowly. That happens. You running from something or toward something? Both, I said. He smiled. Good answer. We became friends fast. He was everything I wasn't. Easygoing, talkative, always joking. But when work ended, we stayed late. talking about dreams neither of us could afford. "I'm going to start something," I told him one night. "A business. Real estate." He raised a brow. "You? You can barely afford rent." "That's why I have to," I said. "I'll learn. Night school, books, whatever it takes." He stared at me for a moment, then nodded. "You're serious?" "I'm done being powerless," I said. He chuckled. "Then let's get powerful." Night school was brutal. I'd work all day, then rush to class until midnight. My body ached constantly, but the pain kept me sharp. Every number, every term, every case study, I devoured it. One night, Elias found me asleep at the table. "You studying or dying?" "Both," I mumbled, rubbing my eyes. He dropped a burger in front of me. "Eat, then die." I smiled weakly. "Thanks. You don't talk about your family," he said suddenly. "There's nothing left to say." "They hurt you?" "Worse," I said. "They sold me out." It didn't press. "Then build something they can't touch." That stuck with me. Months passed. I started saving barely. We learned the city's backstreets, its cheap markets. It's the hidden corners where people sold information for a price. Elias would point at buildings as we walked. "That one's worth $500,000 easy." "If we owned even one floor one day," I said. He laughed. "Dream big, huh?" "It's not a dream," I said. "It's a deadline." We started flipping tiny things, furniture, used bikes, even appliances from the warehouse. Anything that could turn a small profit. The first time we made $200 in a week, Elias shouted, "We're businessmen." Loud enough for the neighbors to complain? "Barely," I said, grinning. He slapped my back. "It's a start." Ears blurred. The jobs changed, but the grind stayed the same. I learned to talk like investors, to negotiate, to spot value in what others ignored. One night, Elias slammed a folder on the table. "Found it?" "Found what?" "Our first property, old shop near the river. Banks unloading it cheap." I looked through the papers. "It's a wreck." "Yeah," he said, smiling. "Like us. We spent every penny we had. We fixed walls, painted ceilings, replaced broken windows with our own hands. We slept on the floor until the air reeked of paint and sweat. When the sale finally went through, I stood outside staring at the deed. My name, my real name, printed across the page. Elias clapped my shoulder. "You did it." "We did it," I corrected. He grinned. "Feels good, huh?" I looked up at the building. It wasn't much cracked bricks, chipped sign, uneven steps, but it stood. It was ours. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It feels like breathing again." He turned toward me. "You ever gonna tell me what you're really chasing?" I stared at the horizon. "Justice. Maybe peace. Haven't decided yet," Elias nodded. "Then whatever it is, I'm in." I smiled faintly. "You'll regret that, probably," he said. "But it'll be fun," he laughed. Two broke men standing in front of something real. I looked down at the key in my hand, the metal still warm from the locksmith. For the first time since my parents sold everything I loved, I felt control return. This wasn't just a building. It was the beginning of payback. When I drove into my hometown, even the air felt smaller, thinner somehow. The streets were cracked, the stores half empty, and the houses looked tired. It had been 8 years. 8 years since I left with nothing. Now, I came back with more than they ever imagined. Elias glanced at me from the passenger seat. "You sure about this?" "I just want to see it," I said. "That's all." We smirked. "You've been saying that for a month." "Maybe I just need to know it's real," I muttered. We turned down Maple Lane. My parents' old house sat at the corner, smaller than I remembered. Paint peeling, windows cracked. A for sale sign leaned in the yard. Elias parked the car. "Looks like karma did the heavy lifting." I stared through the windshield. "Yeah, but it doesn't feel good." "You want me to handle the purchase?" he asked. I nodded. "Use the company name. They don't need to know it's me." He gave me a look. "Still afraid to face them?" "It's not fear," I said quietly. "It's exhaustion." The next day, I walked down the old market street alone. Faces I used to know passed by without a flicker of recognition. When I stopped by the bakery, the owner squinted. Elias Miller? That you? I smiled. It's been a while. You've changed, boy. Got that city shine now. Something like that, I said. He leaned closer. Your folks still around? I wouldn't know, I replied. He nodded slowly. Heard they've had trouble. Lost a lot. My chest tightened. Yeah, I whispered. I know. Later that evening, I parked near the old house. The curtains were drawn, but the porch light was on. I sat there for a long time before I finally knocked. The door opened halfway. My mother stood there, older, thinner. Her eyes widened. Can I help you? For a second I couldn't speak. It's me, Mom. Her lips trembled. Elias. I nodded. She stepped closer, hands shaking. You look different. Life does that, I said. From inside, my father's voice came sharp. Who's at the door? She turned back. It's our son, he appeared, grayer and smaller than I remembered. His eyes met mine, and for a moment neither of us breathed. I didn't think you'd come back, he said finally. I almost didn't, I replied. Mom gestured nervously. Come in, please. We don't have much, but I'm fine, I said, staying by the doorway. I just wanted to see how you're doing. Dad scoffed. We're surviving. That's what you wanted, isn't it? I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? He crossed his arms. You left. Never called. Never wrote. You sold my future, I said coldly. What did you expect? Mom's voice broke. We were wrong. We've paid for it every day since. Have you? Because last time I checked, you still found a way to blame me. She reached for my arm. Please, Elias, we're sorry. Dad looked away. Sorry doesn't feed you. Sorry doesn't fix anything. I stared at him. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to mean you understand what you did. He didn't answer. Mom whispered, We're losing the house. The bank, they're taking it next month. I know, I said. She blinked. You know? I exhaled slowly. I bought it. Silence filled the doorway. Dad's face twisted. You what? I bought it. Through an agent. You don't owe rent. You can stay until you find something better. He clenched his fists. You think I'll live in a house owned by my son? You already did, I said quietly. You just didn't notice when you sold it the first time. He turned away, jaw trembling. Mom covered her mouth, tears spilling. Why would you do this? She whispered. Because I needed to see if I could, I said. To prove to myself that I'm not the helpless boy you betrayed. Her sobs filled the silence. We were desperate. I know, I said softly. And I was too. Dad finally spoke, his voice small. You've changed. I had to, I replied. It was the only way to survive. I stepped back, hands in my pockets. The papers are handled. You'll get a notice soon. Mom shook her head. You're leaving again? I nodded. There's nothing left to stay for. She reached for me, but I stepped away. I hope, I said quietly, that one day you'll understand what it felt like to lose everything and build it back alone. Then I turned and walked down the steps. Behind me, I heard my father's voice break, just once before the door closed. I arrived just as the movers were loading the last box into the truck. The house looked smaller now, stripped bare. My mother stood by the doorway, clutching a faded photo frame. My father leaned on the railing, staring at the ground. When they saw me, their faces froze. Elias' mom whispered, Why are you here? I came to make sure everything's handled, I said evenly. Dad's eyes narrowed. Handled. What's that supposed to mean? I stepped closer. It means I'm the new owner. Mom blinked, confused. What? I met her gaze. The house. The land it sits on. The deed has my name. Her hand trembled around the frame. No, you can't mean I can, I said quietly. And I do. Dad's jaw clenched. You bought it? Yes. He laughed bitterly. You think this makes you a man? Buying your parents' misery? I didn't flinch. I think it makes me responsible for what you taught me. I started crying. Elias, please. We didn't know what else to do back then. We were drowning. You could have told me, I said. You could have trusted me. You were ashamed, she whispered. We thought we were protecting you by betraying me. Her tears fell fast. We were wrong. Dad stepped forward, voice rising. Enough, Miriam. He's here to gloat, not to forgive. I stared at him. You still think this is about revenge? He sneered. What else would it be? It's about balance, I said. About giving you what you gave me distance? He looked away, jaw shaking. Mom reached for me. You don't mean that? I took a step back. I mean every word. She sobbed harder. We have nowhere to go. I'm giving you time, I said. 30 days. After that, the house is mine. Her voice broke. Where will we live? That's not my choice to make, I said. It never was. Dad's voice cracked. You've changed. Okay. I learned from the best, I said. You taught me how to let go of what matters for the sake of survival. He shook his head slowly. You think you've won, but you're just like me now. Maybe, I said. But at least I earned what I have. Mom dropped to her knees. Please, Elias, don't do this. We're sorry. Truly sorry. Her words hit hard, but I couldn't let them sink in. Sorry doesn't erase what you did, I said softly. It doesn't bring back the land. It doesn't bring back who I was. She sobbed into her hands. Dad looked at me with hollow eyes. You're not my son anymore, I said. I felt something twist inside me, but I didn't let it show. You made that choice years ago. Turned away, silent. The only sound was my mother's crying. I looked around the porch, the same cracked steps, the same rusted railing I once helped paint. It all felt distant now, like a memory belonging to someone else. I didn't come to hurt you, I said finally. I came to end this. Mom lifted her head, eyes swollen. And what? The guilt, I said. The anger. The pretending. After today, we're even. Her lip quivered. Even? You call this even? No, I admitted. But it's close enough. I turned toward the car. Elias's dad called out. If you walk away now, there's no going back. I paused, hand on the door. There never was. Then I drove off, leaving their figures shrinking in the rearview mirror to ghosts standing on the porch of a house that was no longer theirs. The day they left, the house felt like a grave. Boxes gone. Curtains drawn. Just dust and silence. I stood in the doorway, listening to the echo of my own footsteps. I never thought it'd feel this empty, I muttered. The floorboards creaked back, like an old friend sighing. I wandered into the kitchen. The faint smell of my mother's cooking still lingered. Onions, cumin, something warm that used to mean love. Guess you're still here, I whispered to the air. The ghosts of better days. Cupboards were bare, but I opened them anyway. Habit. I found an old mug, chipped along the rim, my father's favorite. I held it up, studying the crack. You used to drink coffee every morning at this table, I said softly. Said it kept you strong? Guess neither of us stayed that way. My voice echoed off the walls. No one answered. I walked into the living room. Faded wallpaper, dust-covered furniture, the couch where I'd fallen asleep watching movies with Nora, the clock still ticking, slow and tired. Time didn't stop for us, huh? I said. It just waited for the mess to end. I opened a drawer beneath the old desk. Inside were scattered papers, pens, and a single photograph yellowed at the edges. It was me, a boy, maybe 8 years old, standing in the field beside my father. His hand rested on my shoulder, both of us smiling like the world was ours. I stared at it for a long time. You were proud of me then, I murmured. Before money mattered more than promises. The silence pressed heavy. My throat burned. I sank into the nearest chair, gripping the photo. You know, I said to the empty room, I thought this would fix everything. Buying the house. Making things even. My laugh came out hollow. But it doesn't feel like winning. It just feels quiet. The air seemed to hum with old memories. The sound of my mother's humming, my father's radio, my own laughter spilling through the halls. I pressed the photo to my chest. Was I ever enough for you? I whispered. The ticking clock answered. Tick, tick, tick. I wiped my face, forcing a smile that no one could see. I guess revenge doesn't bring peace. It just leaves a different kind of pain. I stood and walked through each room slowly, like saying goodbye to old versions of myself, the boy who believed, the son who trusted, the man who tried to forget. In my parents' room, sunlight slipped through the blinds, cutting across the bed like a scar. I opened the nightstand drawer and found a note. The paper was wrinkled, folded too many times. It was in my mother's handwriting. We did what we thought was right. I hope one day you'll understand. I read it twice. Then again, I understand, I said quietly. Just not the way you wanted. The weight in my chest shifted, not gone, but softer somehow. I walked back to the front door. Glancing over my shoulder one last time, the house looked the same as the day I left it years ago, and yet everything had changed. I locked the door and stepped outside. The air was cool, almost kind. Elias was waiting by the car. You good? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. I just had a conversation with the past. He raised an eyebrow. How'd that go? I smiled faintly. It finally stopped talking back. He handed me the keys. So, what now? I looked back at the house, the faded curtains swaying gently in the window. I think, said it's time to build something new. We got into the car. As the engine started, I felt the weight of the photo in my pocket, a memory, not a wound. And for the first time in years, I let myself breathe. I stood outside the real estate office, pen still warm in my hand. The sale was final. The house was no longer mine, or theirs. Just a line on a contract. Elias clapped my shoulder. You sure about this? Yeah, I said. It's time. He studied me. Feels strange, doesn't it? Letting go of something you fought so hard to take back? It's not the house I wanted, I said. It's what it represented. Now, it doesn't represent anything, he nodded. So what now? I looked down at the check folded in my pocket. I'm donating part of it. His brows lifted. To who? The town, I said. They're building a community center where my grandfather's land used to be. Elias smiled. You think that'll make peace with the past? Not with the past, I said quietly. With myself? A few days later, I met Nora at the construction site. The sound of hammers and machines filled the air. The land that once broke me was now alive again. She waved when she saw me. You actually did it, she said. You sold the house. Yeah. I looked around at the half-built walls. Didn't think it would feel this light. Ow. She smiled softly. You're changing. I guess I'm tired of being angry, I admitted. She nodded. Mom said the same about you when I visited last week. You've seen them? Yes. They're living in a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. There. Different now. Different how? She hesitated. Quieter. Regretful. They talk about you a lot. I looked away. That doesn't change what they did. No, she said. But it means they finally understand what it cost. Understanding doesn't rebuild what they broke. Maybe not, she said. But rebuilding doesn't always start with them. Sometimes it starts with you. Her words lingered. You sound like Grandpa, I said. Maybe he left more of himself in us than we thought, she said, smiling. I laughed lightly. You always were the peacemaker. Someone has to be, she said. You both got the stubborn genes. We walked across the dirt, stepping around piles of wood and cement bags. The foreman waved. Thanks again for the donation, Mr. Miller. This place is going to mean a lot to the kids here. It's not charity, I said. It's a replacement for what was lost. He nodded respectfully. Sometimes that's the best kind. That night, I sat at my desk with a blank sheet of paper. The lamp flickered softly, and for a long time, I didn't write a word. Then I started, Mom, Dad, I don't know what to call this. A letter? a confession, or a goodbye? Maybe all three? When you sold the land, I thought you sold me too. I spent years trying to prove I didn't need you, but every success felt like revenge, not peace. I kept chasing something that wouldn't fill the hole you left. Now I think I finally understand. Some wounds don't close with time, they just stop bleeding. I paused, tapping the pen against the desk. I'm not writing to forgive you. I'm writing because I don't want to hate you anymore. You taught me the price of trust. I just wish it hadn't cost us everything. I folded the letter carefully and sealed it in an envelope. I didn't know if I'd ever send it. Maybe that wasn't the point. The next morning I drove out before sunrise. The road wound past the hills where the old land used to lie. The community center's frame rose in the distance, beams catching the first light. I parked by the fence and got out. The air smelled clean, the kind of clean that comes after rain. Nora's voice echoed in my mind. Rebuilding doesn't start with them. It starts with you. I watched the workers moving across the site, laughter mixing with the hum of machines. Life was growing again on the same soil that once represented betrayal. Elias called me that morning. So how's freedom treating you? I smiled at the horizon. Quiet, peaceful, real. Feels weird, huh? He said. Yeah, I replied, but good weird. The sun rose higher, warm against my face. I took one last look at the land that had defined every chapter of my life, love. Betrayal, anger, revenge, and finally, release, goodbye, I whispered, and for the first time, I didn't mean it with bitterness. The letter came on a quiet morning, tucked between bills and advertisements. The handwriting stopped me cold, shaky, familiar. I opened it carefully, Elias. I don't know if you'll ever read this. Your father and I visit the community center often. The children play where the olive trees once stood. They sit on the bench with your name engraved. Every time I touch those letters and cry, my throat tightened. I kept reading. You became the man we couldn't be. You turned pain into something good. We're proud of you. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see what we lost in you. Love, Mom. I sat there staring at the page. My hands shook. Elias called just then. You sound weird. You okay? I got a letter, I said. From my mother. He paused. After all these years? Yeah, she says they visit the center. That's something, he said softly. Maybe that's their way of saying sorry. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. She said they see my name on the bench. He chuckled. Guess you left your mark. Not sure that's what I wanted, I murmured. What do you want then? I looked out the window. The sunrise painted the sky gold and pink. Maybe just peace? Think you'll write back? He asked. I folded the letter slowly. Maybe, or maybe this was enough, he sighed. You've changed, man. I had to, I said quietly. Otherwise, I'd still be angry. After we hung up, I drove to the community center. The benches gleamed under the morning light. Kids were already running around, their laughter echoing across the yard. I found the one with my name, Elias Miller. The letters felt cold under my fingertips. I just became who you made me, I whispered. A breeze moved through the trees. Soft and warm, almost like an answer. For the first time, I didn't feel like the boy who lost everything. I felt like the man who built something from the ruins, and as the sun rose higher, I realized this was all that remained, and it was enough.